What happens when a simple interview question triggers one of the most explosive celebrity meltdowns ever caught on live television? Today, we're diving into the shocking moment that left viewers speechless and sent social media into complete chaos. Make sure to subscribe and drop your thoughts in the comments because this story gets wilder by the minute. The morning started like any other on the Today Show set. Jenna Bush Hager sat across from global superstar Gwen Stefani, both women wearing bright smiles as the cameras rolled. The interview was supposed to be a lighthearted promotion for Gwen's upcoming tours, but what unfolded instead would become one of the most talked about television moments of the year. "Gwen, it's so wonderful to have you back on the show," Jenna began, her voice warm and welcoming. "Your fans are absolutely thrilled about this new tour. Tell us what we can expect." Gwen shifted slightly in her chair, her signature red lipstick catching the studio lights. "Thank you so much for having me, Jenna. This tour is really special to me because it's about celebrating my entire journey. You know, from No Doubt to my solo career to where I am now." "That's incredible," Jenna responded, flipping through her notes. "Speaking of your journey, I have to ask about something that's been trending on social media lately. Fans have been discussing your past relationships and how they've influenced your music over the years." The smile on Gwen's face flickered for just a moment, so briefly that viewers at home might have missed it, but the cameras caught everything. "Well, I mean, all artists draw from their personal experiences," she said, her voice still steady, but with a slight edge creeping in. Jenna nodded enthusiastically, clearly not picking up on the subtle shift in Gwen's demeanor. "Absolutely, and your fans love how authentic you are about that. But there's been some speculation about whether your new songs contain references to your relationship with Blake Shelton, and some people are wondering if there's any truth to the rumors about tension between you two." Gwen's posture straightened, and her hands clasped together tightly in her lap. "I'm sorry, what kind of question is that exactly?" she asked, her tone sharpening considerably. "Oh, I didn't mean anything negative by it." Jenna quickly backtracked, realizing she might have struck a nerve. "It's just that your fans are curious, and there have been some reports in the media about some challenges in your personal life." "Challenges?" Gwen repeated, her voice rising slightly. "What challenges are you referring to specifically?" Jenna, the studio audience, which had been chattering quietly among themselves, began to fall silent as they sensed the tension building between the two women. Jenna glanced at her producers off camera, clearly seeking guidance on how to navigate this increasingly uncomfortable situation. "I mean, you know how the tabloids can be," Jenna said with a nervous laugh. "They're always speculating about celebrity relationships. I just thought maybe you'd want to set the record straight about some of the rumors that have been circulating." Gwen's eyes narrowed, and she leaned forward in her chair. "The rumors? Which rumors exactly would you like me to address? Because it sounds like you're buying into tabloid nonsense and presenting it as legitimate journalism." No, that's not what I'm doing at all," Jenna protested, her voice becoming more defensive. "I'm just asking the questions that I know our viewers are curious about. It's part of what makes for good television." "Good television." Gwen's voice was getting louder now, and she made no effort to hide her irritation. "So exploiting someone's personal life for entertainment value is what you call good television?" The other co-hosts, who had been quietly observing from their positions at the desk, began to look visibly uncomfortable. One of them attempted to interject with a comment about the weather, but Gwen wasn't having any of it. "You know what, Jenna? I came here to talk about my music, my art, my tours. I came here to connect with my fans and share something meaningful with them. But instead, you want to turn this into some kind of gossip session where you can profit off of speculation about my private life." Jenna's face flushed red, and she looked genuinely taken aback by the intensity of Gwen's response. "Gwen, I really think you're misunderstanding my intentions here. I wasn't trying to exploit anything. I was just trying to have a conversation." "A conversation?" Gwen let out a bitter laugh. "Is that what you call ambushing someone with invasive questions about their personal relationships on live television? Because where I come from, we call that something else entirely." The tension in the studio was now palpable, and viewers at home could feel it through their screens. Social media was already beginning to explode with real-time reactions as people watched the interview spiral completely out of control. "I think maybe we should take a step back here," one of the other co-hosts finally managed to say. But Gwen was already standing up from her chair. "No, I think we should address this head-on," Gwen said, her voice now carrying a dangerous edge. "Because I'm tired of being treated like my personal life is fair game for anyone who wants to boost their ratings." Jenna stood up as well, clearly flustered but trying to maintain some semblance of professional composure. "Gwen, please, I think there's been a misunderstanding." The silence that followed was deafening. Viewers could practically feel the electricity crackling between the two women as they stood facing each other, neither willing to back down. Then Gwen broke the tension with words that would be replayed thousands of times across social media. "You want to know what the real story is, Jenna? The real story is that I've been in this industry for over 2 decades. and I've watched journalists like you reduce accomplished women to nothing more than their relationship status. You wouldn't ask a male artist these questions." Jenna's jaw dropped, and she took a step back as if she'd been physically struck. "That is completely unfair, and you know it. I interview male celebrities about their personal lives all the time." "Really?" Gwen challenged, crossing her arms. "When was the last time you asked a male musician if the rumors about his marriage falling apart were true? When did you last ambush a man with questions about whether his relationship drama was affecting his art?" The other co-hosts exchanged nervous glances, clearly unsure whether to intervene or let this play out. The studio audience was now completely silent, hanging on every word of this unprecedented confrontation. "I asked you about your music and how your experiences influence it," Jenna insisted, her voice growing more defensive by the second. "That's literally what every music journalist does." "No, that's not what you did," Gwen fired back, her voice cutting through the studio like a blade. "You specifically brought up speculation about my relationship with Blake, and you did it in a way that suggested there was some kind of scandal brewing. You turned my personal life into tabloid fodder." On live television, Jenna's face was now bright red, and she looked around desperately for support from her colleagues. "I was trying to give you an opportunity to address the rumors and set the record straight. I thought I was doing you a favor." "A favor?" Gwen's laugh was sharp and humorless. "You thought you were doing me a favor by putting me in a position where I either have to discuss my private relationship on national television or look like I'm hiding something. That's not a favor, Jenna. That's manipulation." The tension in the room had reached a breaking point, and one of the producers finally stepped forward, trying to signal for a commercial break. But Gwen noticed the gesture and shook her head firmly. "Oh no, we're not cutting away from this," she said, looking directly into the camera, "because this is exactly the kind of behavior that needs to be called out. This is what happens when entertainment journalism prioritizes gossip over genuine artistry." Jenna was visibly shaking now, caught between anger and embarrassment. "Gwen, you're being completely unreasonable. This is how interviews work. People want to know about your life. People want to know about my music." Gwen corrected her. "They want to know about my creative process, my inspirations, my tours, but you decided that wasn't interesting enough. So you went straight for the personal drama, because that's what gets clicks and ratings." "That's not true," Jenna protested weakly, but her voice lacked conviction. "Isn't it?" Gwen challenged. "Then tell me, Jenna, what question were you planning to ask me next? Were you going to ask about my songwriting process? About the production techniques I used on my new album? Or were you going to dig deeper into my personal relationships?" Jenna opened her mouth to respond, then closed it again, clearly caught off guard by the direct confrontation. The silence stretched between them for several seconds before she finally managed to speak. "I had questions prepared about your music, too," she said quietly, "but those weren't the questions you chose to lead with, were they?" Gwen pressed. "You went straight for the gossip because that's what you thought would make for better television, and now you're acting surprised that I'm not grateful for the opportunity to have my private life dissected on your show." The studio audience was now completely riveted, watching this real-time destruction of what was supposed to be a routine celebrity interview. Social media was exploding with reactions, hashtags were trending, and news outlets were already preparing breaking news alerts about the confrontation. "Look, maybe I could have phrased things differently," Jenna finally admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Maybe." Gwen's eyebrows shot up. "Maybe you could have phrased things differently. Jenna, you basically accused me of having relationship problems based on nothing but tabloid speculation and social media rumors. And when I called you out on it, you doubled down and tried to make it seem like I was being unreasonable for not wanting to discuss my private life with millions of strangers." "I never accused you of anything," Jenna said, but her protest sounded hollow even to her own ears. "You didn't have to explicitly accuse me," Gwen replied. "The implication was clear. You brought up the rumors and then asked me to respond to them, which automatically suggests that there might be some truth to them. It's a classic journalistic trap, and you know it." The other co-hosts were now actively trying to defuse the situation, with one of them attempting to steer the conversation back to safer territory. "Maybe we could talk about the tour dates," she suggested hopefully, but Gwen wasn't ready to let this go. "No, I think we need to finish this conversation first, because this isn't just about me. This is about how women in the entertainment industry are constantly expected to justify and explain their personal choices to the public." Jenna looked around the studio, clearly hoping someone would rescue her from this increasingly uncomfortable situation, but her colleagues seemed just as stunned as she was by the intensity of Gwen's response. The sight of Gwen reaching for her microphone sent a wave of panic through the studio. Jenna's eyes widened in horror as she realized what was happening. "Gwen, please don't do this," Jenna pleaded, her professional composure completely abandoned now. "We can work this out, we don't have to end things this way." But Gwen was already unclipping the small device from her blazer, her movements deliberate and final. Actually, Jenna, I think this is exactly how we need to end things. Because someone needs to draw a line in the sand about what's acceptable behavior in this industry. You're making a huge mistake, Jenna said desperately. Walking off a live television show like this, it's going to look terrible for you. People will think you can't handle tough questions. Gwen paused, the microphone now in her hand, and looked directly at Jenna with an expression that was equal parts disappointment and determination. Let me tell you something about tough questions. Jenna, a tough question would be asking me about the creative challenges I faced while writing my new album. A tough question would be about how I've evolved as an artist over the past 2 decades. What you did wasn't tough journalism, it was cheap sensationalism. The other co-hosts made one final attempt to salvage the situation. Gwen, we really value having you here, one of them said quickly. Maybe we could start over with some different questions. Start over. Gwen turned to face the camera directly, addressing the millions of viewers watching at home. You know what? Let me tell you all something. I came here today excited to share my music with you, to talk about the art that I've poured my heart and soul into. But instead, I was ambushed with gossip and speculation presented as legitimate interview questions. Jenna made one last desperate attempt to regain control of the situation. Gwen, you're being completely unfair to me and to this show. We've always treated you with respect. Respect. Gwen's voice was incredulous as she turned back to face Jenna. You call it respect when you use your platform to spread unverified rumors about someone's personal life. You call it respect when you try to manipulate someone into discussing private matters they clearly don't want to address. I was just doing my job, Jenna said weakly. No, Jenna, you were doing what you thought would get you better ratings. There's a difference. Gwen held up the microphone she'd removed. And this is me refusing to be complicit in that kind of journalism. The studio fell completely silent except for the sound of cameras still rolling. Everyone seemed frozen, unsure of what would happen next. Then Gwen placed the microphone on the coffee table between them with a soft click that somehow seemed to echo through the entire studio. You want a story for your show? Gwen said, looking around at all the stunned faces surrounding her. Here's your story. This is what happens when artists finally get tired of being treated like circus performers instead of creative professionals. Jenna was now visibly fighting back tears. Whether from anger, embarrassment, or frustration, it was impossible to tell. Gwen, please, just sit back down. We can talk about whatever you want to talk about. It's too late for that. Gwen replied, already moving toward the edge of the interview area. The damage is done. You showed your true priorities today, and so did I. As Gwen began walking away from the interview set, one of the other co-hosts made a final plea. Gwen, think about your fans. They came here to see you today. Gwen stopped and turned back one more time. My fans deserve better than watching me be subjected to tabloid journalism disguised as legitimate interview questions. They deserve an artist who stands up for herself and refuses to be exploited for entertainment value. This is insane. Jenna finally exploded, her own composure completely shattered now. You're acting like I personally attacked you or something. I asked you about rumors that are already out there in the public. That's literally what every talk show host does. And maybe that's the problem, Gwen shot back. Maybe the fact that every talk show host does, it doesn't make it right. Maybe it's time for someone to say, enough is enough. The confrontation had now reached its climax, with both women having laid their positions bare for the world to see. The studio audience sat in stunned silence, unsure whether to applaud, boo, or simply sit quietly and witness this unprecedented moment in television history. Fine, Jenna said, her voice shaking with emotion. If you want to walk off and make this whole thing about me being some kind of villain, go ahead, but don't expect me to apologize for doing the job that millions of viewers tune in to see. I wouldn't dream of expecting an apology from you, Jenna, Gwen replied coolly, because that would require you to actually understand why what you did was wrong, and I don't think you're capable of that level of self-reflection. With those final devastating words, Gwen turned and walked off the set, leaving behind a studio full of shocked faces and millions of viewers who had just witnessed one of the most explosive celebrity interviews in television history. The cameras continued rolling as Jenna stood there, visibly shaken, trying to figure out how to fill the remaining airtime. Well, Jenna finally managed to say, her voice barely steady, that was certainly unexpected. We'll be right back after this commercial break, but the damage was already done. Within minutes, clips of the confrontation were spreading across every social media platform. News outlets were scrambling to cover the story. Entertainment blogs were analyzing every word that had been exchanged. And somewhere in America, Gwen Stefani was probably sitting in her car, finally feeling like she had said everything she needed to say about the state of celebrity journalism. The interview that was supposed to promote her tour had instead become a masterclass in standing up for yourself, even when it means walking away from one of the biggest platforms in daytime television, whether viewers agreed with her approach or not. One thing was certain, nobody would ever forget the day Gwen Stefani decided she'd had enough. So what do you think about Gwen's explosive reaction? Was she justified in calling out what she saw as exploitative journalism, or did she go too far in her response to Jenna's questions? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more incredible celebrity stories that you won't believe actually happened.